when this is exactly what the Brewers are every single year. Yes, are they a little better at this point than they traditionally are? Yes. Are they like usually a high 80s win team and not 60 and 40 at through 100 games? Absolutely. But the Brewers have a bunch of good, not great players, right? And they got a bunch of good, not great pitchers. That is my look at it. Now, have I watched the entirety of their win streak? No, I was traveling, so I can't comment on the Dodgers series over the weekend because I was in South America. But from what I saw from them throughout the year, this is the Brewer team that is likely going to be looking for somebody to rely on offensively by the time it gets down to it in the playoffs. If anybody's really sitting there as a fan of an NL team, and if you're going to say the Brewers are the second most fearsome team in that league, comparatively, you're going to put the Dodgers number one. Let's not be stupid. Dodgers are going to be number one. If you're going to sit here and tell me that you're afraid of Milwaukee before you're afraid of Philadelphia or even Chicago or San Diego, you're lying to yourself.
If I could chime in quickly, they're not even the best team in their division.
The thing about the Cubs is it's funny because they got Counsell there. The Cubs got a better offense, and they don't have the pitching. Milwaukee's a little bit more well-rounded.
Well, they don't have the bullpen. I think the Cubbies have the starters with Immananga and Boyd and how well those guys have played.
The well-roundedness of the Brewers is why they're really good. They don't have the top-heavy talent that the Cubs have, and especially that high-scoring offense.
Woodruff has been unreal since he's been back. So I think first off,
Mizorowski's been a revelation.
Correct. Mizorowski's been great, but I think Woodruff is the one. Woodruff and Mizorowski were really the ones that had started this. Peralta's consistently great, who's striking out a K per 9 guy his entire career. The guy that surprised me was Chad Patrick, the pitcher for the Brewers. But Trevor McGill has, 23 saves this year? Uribe, Koenig, they're always, to your point, a pretty well-rounded team. What happens? When is the last time they won a playoff series? Serious question.
They are more.
Serious question.
It was, 2018 that they were in the NLCS against the Dodgers where they lost that series. They had that terrible series loss against the Mets last year.
8 years ago?
Well, I won't say that's the last one. That's just one that pops to mind when they made a run.
The recency bias with this team is they can't win a playoff game. And they win that division every single year because the likes of the Pirates and the Reds are usually bad. Now, Reds are better this year. The Cardinals and the Cubbies have been struggling in recent years. But the Brewers win that division, and then they strike out swinging, literally, in the playoffs year in and year out. You're licking your chops. If you're a team like the Mets, if you're a team like the Phillies, if you're a team like the Dodgers, or even the Giants and the Padres, who I know you're not quite buying it at this point, if you see Milwaukee on that first round, you're licking your chops. You're licking your chops. You know the drill.
They're a little coated like Tampa Bay, Oakland when they were good, Cleveland. They're coated like those teams. And they're coated like,
Give the Guards some credit. They win playoff series. This team doesn't win playoff series.
But they're in the NL. Keep that in mind. But yes, I understand. But they're a little bit more coated like the team that is very good in the regular season. And when you get to the postseason and you need big game players, Milwaukee is sort of looking around the room, who's going to be that guy for us, and they never have that.
They signed Yelich to be that guy. Injuries and for whatever reason, lack of discipline at the plate, I feel like have been that. And then they count the guy's Churria. And
Churrio's a good player, but Churrio's 20. What are you going to rely on him and Mizorowski in a game against the Dodgers at Dodger Stadium? Really? That's the problem with Milwaukee, because Milwaukee's going to view this 11-game win streak, and let's see if they buy at the deadline. Let's see. You got 9 days. Let's see if they go get people. And if they do, they really tell you how serious they are about actually, making a run this year and capitalizing on this team. If they don't, which is a classic Milwaukee move, if they don't make a huge move, and they sit there and just thinking, all right, we're going to be okay, that's when you know that Milwaukee's going to be dead.
Never forget when they got rid of Hader when they were in a pennant race.
Right.
And then they completely bowed out of that. So there's no guarantees.
They had Williams sitting there as well. But yes.
But you get what I'm saying. There's no guarantee that they're not going to sell anybody either. My next question for you is about Mizorowski. Is he the next big pitcher in baseball?
Well, it's too early. He's we've seen him for a month and a half, but he
doesn't have that Skeens aura.
I can't make enough comments about that because he's only pitched for so long. But the thing about them is they've surprised people. They're having an unrelenting great season. There's no doubt about it. But if you're sitting there in the National League, you're afraid of Philly before you're afraid of Milwaukee. You're afraid of probably San Diego and Chicago because those teams are similar in terms of just that offense and how dangerous they are. And then you're afraid of the Dodgers. That's before you even get to Milwaukee.
To maybe And listen, I agree with you. I think they got to prove it. They got to do it first until I start believing in it.
What tells me that this is not classic Milwaukee?
Here's what I'll tell you. They got 4 pitchers in Woodruff, Peralta, Patrick, and Mizorowski that you could probably now. We'll see about Miz, to your credit. But those 4 guys, you think you could go to them and it's start. You need 3. What's the famous saying in the playoffs? You need 3 starting pitchers. They got 4. And then the likes of McGill, Uribe, and Koenig have been solid options in the pen as well. So you got 3 pen guys, Kyle. You got 4 starters. And you got a lineup with Rhys Hoskins, with Yelich, with Churio, and a bunch of guys like Sal Frelick could do everything. You hope that these guys get hot at the right time and they could go on a run. Pitching is the most important thing in my mind, but to your credit, too, you got to be able to get the bats across the plate. And that's always been the problem.
They've always been the problem. They always pitch. But
at the same time, I think there's something to be said about having 4 starting pitchers and 3 relievers that you could count on. Are you going to get the big? First off, is Yelich going to be healthy? I think that's important,
They don't have a single player with an 800 OPS. They don't have a single player.
Yelich, Churio, Hoskins, Contreras, Frelick. Is that good enough?
They don't have a single player who's hitting with an 800-plus OPS. That's the bottom line. They don't. That means they don't have a single above, I would say, closer to elite hitter on the team.
Yep.
They have a bunch of good hitters, not a bunch of great hitters. When has that been a recipe for total success? A bunch of good hitters. And you know what? Maybe that balance is going to serve them. But it means you got to get hot and you got to get lucky at the right time because they don't have a Bryce Harper to bail them out. They don't have, a Tatis to bail them out. They don't have elite big game players, Freddie Freeman's of the world. They don't have that. They don't have the Lindors. They don't have the Soto. That's what other teams in their league have.
Kyle, they need
even the Cubs have that.
They need Churio to be that guy.
Hey, what are you asking? He's a 23-year-old.
Right. Lindor did it. Lindor did it in 16.
Right, but you're a 23-year-old. What are you asking? That's a lot to ask out of a young player. You can't make declarations about how they're going to do in the postseason. But after an 11-game win streak, the fact that they're playing their best baseball now in July is exciting. For a Brewer fan, congratulations. But if I'm looking at that team and look at their statistics lined up against the rest of in terms of hitting and pitching, it is upper middle of the pack. That is classic Brewers. That is classic Milwaukee Brewers. They are an upper middle team in the Major League Baseball year in and year out, and they surprise people year in and year out. Would you take them in a playoff series? Absolutely not.
2, 3, 4, 5. Kyle, I got 5 teams here, and you're going to tell me yay or nay if you would take them over the Brewers in a playoff series. Philadelphia Phillies.
No.
The Mets.
Depends on how the Mets are playing. The Mets are always going to Met. Keep in mind, the Mets are always going to Met.
You
probably
hate
the Mets.
You hate the Mets.
I do. And they're playing terrible right now. So
I think good point. Correct thing is the Mets. Dodgers.
Yeah, of course.
And then the next 2, Padres and Cubs.
You're taking both of them.
I am too.
And maybe you know what? The Cubs might.
You're off the Cubs. I love the Cubs.
They might get bombed in a big spot, but
Cubs got bats.
But they're going to go make a move. They're going to make a couple moves. Classic Milwaukee move here would be to not make a move at the deadline, or at least a big one, to go acquire a big bat. They should be in the Eugenio Suarez sweepstakes, and they're not. They should go call for a decent bat that's available and try to uplift that offense a little bit. If they think that they're okay with what they're at right now, it is not going to last them in the postseason.
Michael Busch, Carson Kelly, Kyle Tucker, Pete Crow Armstrong, Seiya Suzuki, and Miguel Amaya all had that OPS stat, by the way, of over 800. They hit the crap out of the ball.
They hit the crap out of the ball.
Oh, my God,
dude. The Brewers, now,
that's why I like them, Kyle.
They got a bunch of 700 OPS guys, but they got a bunch of good hitters, no great hitters.
And Kyle Tucker is playing like an MVP this year. So, Colin, I love this Cub team. I think they make a move. I think they get bullpen arms. I think they can rely on guys like Shota and Matt Boyd come playoff time. Now, Pete Crow got hurt the other day. He's got a bruised knee. That's something to monitor. But if with a fully healthy Pete Crow and a hot Pete Crow like he's been all year in that starting 9, they're dangerous. I don't think anybody wants to see the Cubs come playoff time because of those bats.
They got a little Padres. They got a little Padres. They got a little Padres to them. But if I'm going to make a declaration about the Brewers, I'll say right now, until I see differently, that is the same Brewer team that you see that's like the Oakland A's whenever they were good in the regular season. In a lot of ways, other than the year they made the World Series run, like the Tampa Bay Rays in a lot of regards. They surprise you in the regular season. They maximize, they squeeze the last ounce of just unrelenting, unbelievable wins in the regular season out. They do. They can squeeze that out. They've been doing this for years. And then when the postseason comes and it becomes a big game players' time and a big game offense and rotations time, That's where the Brewers start to struggle.